The Golden Knights are heading back to the playoffs, and Mark Stone returns to practice, drawing eye rolls from the entire National Hockey League.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How about that new intro, Chris? What was that, buddy? What do you think about that?
That's pretty cool.
You know why we got the money to do that?
Why?
Because of Mark Stone being on long-term injured reserve, we were able to retain greater budget and Locked On put some more money into the show. So thank you, Mark Stone, and your injured spleen, which you did only to benefit Locked On Vegas Golden Knights, so we can get a brand new intro. Come on, Chris, give me a little smile. That was kind of funny, wasn't it? A little funny? No. Oh, he's leaving. Where's he going? What's he doing?
All
right, Chris wants to get a Stanley Cup right away because the Golden Knights are going back to the playoffs. I guess we'll do that for a second now. Get it out of the way. We want to see your face. They want to see you. They don't want to see me, Chris. They like you better than me. All right, welcome to the Saturday edition of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. This is the Chris and Chris edition, YouTube exclusive. But if you're seeing this, you already know that. You can catch myself and Tony Cordasco Monday through Friday on Locked On, anywhere you get your podcast, as well as YouTube. Let's dive right into it, Chris. The Golden Knights officially are heading back to the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. How does that make you feel?
I feel like we have a chance to win the cup. I don't feel as big of a chance. Let's just hope we get Vancouver to start things out. Let's just hope we get Vancouver. You
want Vancouver in the first round? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, we can certainly we'll have a playoff preview show probably next Saturday morning because the regular season ends this week and the playoffs for the Golden Knights will start Saturday or Sunday depending on who their first round opponent is. And obviously we know it's going to be on the road. Pretty much no matter what. I don't think the Golden Knights can get any type of home ice advantage. So Golden Knights will be on the road next week to start the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, and they were able to earn that privilege as a result of their 7-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild at T-Mobile Arena on Friday night. Now, we did not go to the game. We had some family plans and stuff. We watched the third period of the game. I kind of watched the game a little bit, and but we still have enough to talk about. So let me go through the goals and stuff really fast. This will be the boring, kind of part that we have to talk about. Goals in the first period, in the first 8 minutes of the game by Eichel, Dorofeev, and Nicholas Waugh. At that point, you knew this game was most likely in the bag. I say most likely because the Golden Knights, they gave up some big leads over the last week or so. Second period, the Wild and Golden Knights traded goals. Jonathan Money Marchessault scoring his 42nd goal of the season. 42nd goal of the season. Tomas Hertl gets his first ever goal as a Golden Knight. Things I never thought I would say in my life. Tomas Hertl scoring a goal for the Vegas Golden Knights. Wild get one back, and then of course William Karlsson scores the 6th goal of the game. Tony called that a garbage time goal. Keegan Kolesar wanted to get another goal so he could say he has goals now in consecutive games. So that's a lowdown about the game. Not a whole lot to talk about the game. I do want to talk about Marc-Andre Fleury for a second. So before I do my rants about Fleury, Chris, I just want you to talk about Marc-Andre Fleury for a little bit. Not about how he played last night, but just about how you enjoy kind of watching him and what you think about Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh, I thought yesterday wasn't his best game. I thought he could save a few of those goals.
Positive Marc-Andre Fleury. We're not talking negative. We're being positive about Marc-Andre Fleury.
Like the one that Kolesar scored.
Okay. Now we're being positive about Marc-Andre Fleury.
Is what I'm still wondering is this his last game?
I don't know. There's a lot of chatter around Twitter and stuff yesterday. No, you're not getting a Twitter yet, but there was a lot of chatter around Twitter that there was a possibility that this was Fleury's last game in T-Mobile Arena, which would make it one of his last games of his entire career, assuming he doesn't get any more starts. And I mean, if I'm Marc-Andre Fleury, I think it'd be cool to have my last game at T-Mobile if it's not going to be in Pittsburgh, but obviously that's for him. So keep going, buddy. What else you got about Marc-Andre Fleury for us?
Oh yeah, which one was better, Marc-Andre Fleury altogether or the Aiden Hill stick save?
I mean, we're talking two different things. Although, if we're going to compare saves, listen, Marc-Andre Fleury has a statue dedicated to a save that we have sitting up in our loft right now, or it might be in my bedroom. Either way, Aiden Hill doesn't have a statue yet, so maybe he's probably going to get a statue at some point. But right now, Marc-Andre Fleury has the only goaltending golden statue that I'm aware of.
What I was saying. Well, I have a big trade that might happen this offseason.
We're not trading for Marc-Andre Fleury, buddy. Stop it. Not going to happen. But
Aiden
really
Hill
fast.
For Marc-Andre Fleury.
What's that?
Aiden Hill for Marc-Andre Fleury.
Aiden Hill for Marc-Andre Fleury. You and the rest of the Twitterverse trying to do video game trades. So really fast,
I like
just for
Arizona
me.
better than you.
What's that?
I like the Arizona Arena better than you.
You like Arizona a lot better than I do, buddy. We'll talk about that maybe somewhere down the line too. So I just want a second to kind of talk about Marc-Andre Fleury, just kind of fire at the hip from a second. My first interaction with Marc-Andre Fleury was I never actually interacted with him on the media side. It was always on the fan side and such. Very, very quickly, it was at an event. It was actually at a golf function. It was the Major Series of Putting back when I was employed through Caesars Entertainment. We got to do like a test run, if you will, of a putting thing that they set up behind Bally's and Planet Hollywood. This was back in season 1 of the Golden Knights, like that second week of the regular season. So we're out there, me and my friend Mitch, shout out to Mitch Dietz. We're out there doing our thing, golfing and just hacking up the course or whatever. We realize there's a camera crew following the group in front of us. Like, why is there a camera crew out here? Lo and behold, it's Marc-Andre Fleury, Will Carrier, and a couple other random Golden Knight players that I can't remember who they were. So I knew they were busy. They were working. They were filming something. So I went up to whoever the PR person at the time was. Seth was his gentleman's name. Very, very, very nice guy. Very, very nice guy. We'll leave it at that. And I said, hey, am I able just to say hi to Marc-Andre Fleury after they're done? He's like, yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. Lo and behold, a couple minutes later, he literally walks Marc-Andre Fleury over and says, hey, this, just like introduces us. I'm like, okay, cool. So I simply say hi to Marc-Andre Fleury, and I wished him well because he had his injury. Chris, remember season 1, he got that concussion early on against the Detroit Red Wings. I'm like, hey, hope you're well. Hope to see you back on the ice. And that's where I wanted to end it. Like, I didn't want to, have a long conversation with him. I'm nobody to him. And he went to tell me about his injury. He was having headaches and stuff. And then we just kept talking. Like, we talked like normal people for 15 minutes, not over a drink or anything. I'm not a VIP or nothing. I'm an employee out there. And he just talked to me like a normal person. I'm like, this doesn't happen. This isn't how most athletes are. And the importance to that is at that moment is when I really gained a big, major appreciation for Marc-Andre Fleury. The Golden Knight players historically have been incredibly amazing to interact with on the ice, off the ice, as media, as fans, as citizens of our great community, right, Chris? We see him all over town and stuff like that. But the effect that Marc-Andre Fleury, I think, had on the early Golden Knights and the effect he had on this city is a huge reason as to why, Chris, you have Golden Knight posters all up around your bedroom. Not necessarily a Malcolm Subban poster, but in general, that's why you have all those posters over your left-hand shoulder because of what Marc-Andre Fleury built. And it wasn't just Marc-Andre Fleury, but he had such a positive influence. So that's my Marc-Andre Fleury perspective. And it was sad to see him get lit up last night. Big game for the Golden Knights. The camera showed him after the William Karlsson goal. Fleury just looked devastated. It was very sad to see, but big game for the Golden Knights. Unfortunate it was at the expense of Marc-Andre Fleury. So, Chris, anything else about the game that you saw that you would like to talk about? Next. The one thing that I'll say really fast about the game. So I've been concerned about Logan Thompson. We've talked, Chris, a few times about how On the penalty kill in particular, they're leaving whoever the goaltender is to fend for themselves to try and fight through a screen to see the puck. Early in the game, Logan Thompson was out there doing his best Eddie Belfour, Ron Hextall, and Billy Smith in impersonation, just crushing any player that got inside his crease. It was kind of fun to watch. You were skating when I was watching this part of the game. But the first goal that the Wild scored was because someone was in Logan Thompson's grill on the penalty kill. So that's a concern for me going forward as this team is trying to get right come the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. Moving next segment, Chris. Anything else about the Wild game we should talk about? Or are you good?
No.
Next, boring. It was a boring game. It was a boring game that it would have been cool if we were there, but it's a game I don't mind missing at all. We'll be at the Avs game tomorrow. We'll talk about that in the third segment. So, Chris, Mark Stone, to the surprise of absolutely no one around the National Hockey League, has returned to practice as of Friday. Here's the crazy thing, Chris. You remember Mark Stone was injured last year, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It was 8 days before the either scheduled start of the playoffs or 8 days before the end of the 8 days before the scheduled start of the playoffs when Mark Stone returned to the ice. Mark Stone played game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Is it kind of weird to you, Chris, that 2 years in a row, Mark Stone had a long injury that kept him out since January, but he's able to get back on the ice right before the playoffs? Is that kind of weird to you?
In my opinion, that's rigged.
That's rigged? You just say that's rigged? You just say that's rigged?
Yeah. Set up, Chris.
One more drink of coffee. Hold on.
Set up, Chris.
Have you and Tony been talking?
Yeah.
Have you and Tony been... Get that out of there. Come on. I want to see your face. Move it right now. I want to see your face. All right. So you and Tony been talking?
About to turn red.
You and Tony been talking about the Golden Knights, about Mark Stone? Hand slap? Okay. Listen, it's not rigged. Mark Stone has a legitimate injury. Whatever it means when you lacerate your spleen, it's not good. It's not good. Now, pump the brakes a little bit, people. The NHL LTIR rules allow a team to exceed the salary cap. Basically, when someone goes on LTIR, that money doesn't count against the team. They could replace that lost money with other players. But the trick is you have to be cap compliant for the player on LTIR to come back in the regular season. Mark Stone gets hurt. Golden Knights acquire Hurdle, Hannafin, Anthony, Mantha. 3 players who are going to be extremely helpful as the Golden Knights attempt to defend their Stanley Cup. Mark Stone's practicing on Friday. Whenever the team skates between now and the start of the playoffs, Mark Stone will be on the ice. Presumably, some point next week, he will be in a regular contact jersey. So, Chris, let's just walk down this path with me for a second. The final Golden Knights regular season game is on Thursday. First playoff game could be as early as Saturday. Do you think that if Mark Stone can play on Saturday for game 1 of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, do you think he could possibly play in game 82 of the regular season 2 days before? Do you think he could be healthy enough?
I don't think he'll be in that yet. No one know how
he's not. No, he can't play because of the salary. What I'm asking you, Chris, is if you think he is healthy enough to play.
No.
Okay, if you're saying it's rigged, and then you're saying he's not playing, we're contradicting ourselves right now, buddy. We're contradicting ourselves.
I'm saying if he plays, that's rigged.
Well, he can't play on Thursday. If he plays on Saturday or if he plays on Thursday in the playoffs, if he plays, it's rigged.
Yes. He plays in game of the playoffs, misses 3 months in the regular season, and then joins the game of the playoffs. That's rigged.
Wow, Chris, you just channeled 31 NHL fan bases right there, dude. We're gonna clip that segment. You might go viral for that, dude. You might seriously go viral for that one.
And I get
rigged. I'm not going to say it's rigged. That's a very big word to use given the circumstances. The NHL has rules. The NHL can pull records and stuff. what the NHL does need to look at, and this is the down the middle version, not the fan version, not the media version of me talking, but the NHL does need to find a way to decipher when a player can return. And the fact that it's going to most likely be 2 years in a row where Mark Stone does, like you said, Chris, miss 3 months or so of hockey, then he's back in game 1 of the regular season.
Which is
It's
rigged.
very fair, including from Biz, from TNT and Spit and Chicklets, to question this. It is fair. Like, I cannot argue that it looks like everything is on the up and up with the Golden Knights and with Mark Stone. I can't. Now, the NHL last season did do somewhat of an investigation on Mark Stone's situation because multiple teams around the National Hockey League were complaining. I believe it was Elliot Friedman or Frank Saravelli that put that out there. I think it was Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts podcast, now that I think about it. So the NHL was poking around. The one thing I will say about this, Chris, is the Golden Knights, Kelly McCrimmon, Mark Stone, they know what's going to happen. Like, they knew the second Mark Stone came back to practice on Friday, they knew that there was going to be questions around the National Hockey League. They knew people were going to flip out. They knew Twitter was going to light up. The Golden Knights said Mark Stone's returning to practice. That tweet got 1 million views in just over 4 hours. So people are watching this team very, very closely. Chris, hockey question. You ready, buddy? You still have yet to get your first penalty in house league. I know you're dying to get it, right?
Just like I want a Twitter account.
Okay, fair enough. So let me ask you a question. If the ref is looking directly at you, like, you know the ref is watching you, are you gonna do something to another player when the ref is looking at you or when the ref is looking away? If you don't want to get caught, are you going to wait while the ref's looking right at you, or are you going to wait until the ref is watching the play down there before you slash a kid?
Wait till he's watching the play, and I have a Twitter account.
I know, Chris, you want to get a penalty, but let's just pretend for a second you don't want to get a penalty, because getting a penalty makes you a selfish player if you do it on purpose. So let's assume you do not want to get a penalty. Are you going to slash a kid when the ref's looking at you or not looking at you?
Not
Answer
looking
the
at
question
me.
the right way. Not looking at you. Okay. The same applies for the Golden Knights situation. Anyone that thinks the Golden Knights are not able to prove Mark Stone's injury timeline to return to NHL game activity, anyone thinks that the Golden Knights are unable to prove what his timetable is, knowing the NHL is watching, just is flat out wrong. It's sour grapes. People are complaining just because they're only saying, oh, he has an injured spleen. He doesn't really have an injured spleen. Like, those are the people that wear tinfoil on their heads and believe in all sorts of conspiracy theories. And, the fact that there's aliens locked up at Area 51. There probably are aliens at Area 51, but bad example. But point being is, there are people that just think every conspiracy is true and everything is against them. Everyone is out against them. And those are the same people that think the NHL rigged the expansion draft for the Golden Knights, and then Gary Bettman wants Vegas to win because they paid all that money for an expansion fees and everything. And it's just, I don't know. There's questions to be asked, but the Golden Knights aren't going to just outright cheat the system, knowing everyone's watching them. What do you think about that, Chris? What do you think about that? Is it still rigged? Are the Golden Knights cheaters, Chris?
Rigged.
I can't even convince my own son. Imagine what everyone. And here you are holding the so is that a rigged Stanley Cup, Chris? Does that Stanley Cup count?
Yes.
How would you feel, Chris? Now I want to put that down. I want to ask you a serious question. If for some reason, I don't even know if this is possible, if for some reason it came out that the Golden Knights cheated last season when the Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup, and the league said, no, the Golden Knights are not the Stanley Cup champions, how would you feel? How would you feel as a fan of this team? Someone who saw it happen with me behind you, hugging you, because I had a tear coming down my face. How would you feel as a fan if the NHL said the Golden Knights did not win the Stanley Cup last season?
That's definitely more rigged.
Okay, but Chris, slow down, buddy. Slow down. Take it down a notch. How would you feel if the NHL took the Stanley Cup away from the Golden Knights last year?
They probably still have they probably still have fingerprints on it.
Would it make you sad, Chris?
Very.
Okay. It would make you sad. It would make you upset. It would trigger a lot of emotions for a lot of people around the National Hockey League. And it's just hard for me to buy the fact that the Golden Knights are breaking any rules, and the fact that they're able to prove that they're following the rules. Is it a little bit slippery what's being done? No doubt about that. But there's slippery things that happen all the time in the NHL, starting with players committing penalties just because the ref isn't looking. Maybe they should go in the box because they committed a penalty in the spirit of the penalty, even though the ref didn't call. It's another thing for another time. But I don't know. Point being is I'll put a bow on this segment, then we're going to move on. Yes, the Golden Knights are drawing attention from the league. Yes, they are drawing attention from so many fan bases. It is a worldwide phenomenon what the Golden Knights are doing as far as the LTIR is concerned, and it's fair. But if you think for a second the Golden Knights are outright cheating or doing this on purpose with Mark Stone 2 seasons in a row without being able to prove a legitimate injury with a legitimate injury timetable, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And the NHL will investigate. Oh, if the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, the Golden Knights will definitely be investigated and they'll be cleared. They'll be cleared. And that's it. That's the end of it. All right. You got anything else about that, Chris, besides saying the word rigged? Perfect. All right, let's move on. It's something what did want to say. You watch way too much of Tony, dude.
Okay, we're on a different segment. Rigged.
The Golden Knights will face off for an afternoon matinee against the Colorado Avalanche tomorrow, Sunday. Now, Chris, speaking of rigged, this is where you and Tony will definitely agree on things. The Colorado Avalanche are playing today against the Winnipeg Jets, and then they come to Vegas tomorrow. So Colorado has a home game against the Jets. They jump on a plane right after the game and make their way to Vegas for tomorrow's matinee. Coach Cassidy mentioned that now that the Golden Knights have clinched their spot in the playoffs with 3 games to play, they might sit some players as far as rest goes. Some players may not want that rest. They may want to play all the way to the end. Some players may want to rest. So how important, Chris, do you think tomorrow's game against the Avalanche is?
The fact that we're in the playoffs, I think it'll still be good to win, but I don't think it will be as important.
Yeah, no, that's fair, buddy. The standings matter right now. The standings do matter right now. So with 3 games to play, the Golden Knights have 94 points. They are 3 points behind the Nashville Predators. Nashville only has 2 games to play. Los Angeles Kings, the other team the Golden Knights can possibly catch in the standings, also have 3 games remaining, but only a 1-point lead over the Golden Knights. So if the Golden Knights finish 3rd in the Pacific, they will start their playoffs on the road against the Edmonton Oilers. If the Golden Knights finish 1st in the wild card, so wild card 1 is a better way to say that, if they can pass Nashville Predators, they will play the Vancouver Canucks in round 1 of the playoffs. If the Golden Knights stay where they are right now in wild card 2, which is probably the most likely scenario, if they stay in wild card 2, the Golden Knights will face the Dallas Stars in round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So now, Chris, which of those 3 teams do you want in the first round, buddy?
Definitely not Edmonton, because I feel like this season they're way too powerful to be stopped in round 1. Vancouver, I still feel pretty nervous against. So right now, my hopes are against Dallas. We're 1-1 for series against them. So I want Dallas.
You want the Dallas Stars, their 109-point season, 1 point behind your New York Rangers for the overall lead in the National Hockey League. You want here's what you want to happen, Chris. Here's your angle. I think I know what your angle is.
You want in the finals.
Well, fine, but before that, you want the Dallas Stars to have the best record in hockey so they get the President's Trophy. And then the President's Trophy curse happens and the Golden Knights take them out in the first round. That's what your angle is, right?
Besides the Rangers winning the President's Trophy, yes.
Well, you don't want the Rangers because if the Rangers win the President's Trophy, then they're not going to win the Stanley Cup. There's like this weird fictitious spell that happens to the team that winds up having the best record in the NHL because they end up never winning it's been a long time since the team that won the President's Trophy has actually lifted the Stanley Cup. So yeah, I like that angle. Let's get the Dallas Stars to have the best record. Golden Knights take them out in the first round. Me and Tony have talked about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot.
Be back in Vegas.
I like that. So my perspective really quickly, Vancouver would be my first team. I would like to see the Golden Knights play. Vancouver's good, but I don't know if they're ready. Golden Knights have the advantage in coaching and just overall skill and experience. Edmonton Oilers would be the second team I would not mind seeing. Edmonton's had a great regular season. Your pick for the Stanley Cup champions, Chris, Edmonton Oilers, by the way. That prediction was made by Chris back in November when the Oilers had all of 8 points in the first, month of the season or whatever it was. So little Chris was onto something right there as the Oilers are making a passive push to even possibly win the Pacific Division. If I'm not mistaken, they can still get in there. Yeah, they can still win mathematically. Actually, it's very mathematically possible for the Oilers to win the division. So there you go. And last, Dallas Stars are the team I would rather avoid for as long as possible. This is a different version of the Dallas Stars. They've added some depth since the two teams faced in last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have to beat 4 really good teams to lift the Stanley Cup. It doesn't matter if it's the Stars, the Rangers, Bruins, Panthers, Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers. It's the toughest trophy to win in professional sports for a reason. At the end of the day, the opponent, if the Golden Knights can play their game, they'll be fine. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just really hope Dallas.
You hope they play Dallas in the first round. Listen, it's fair. They beat Dallas in 6 games last year. Jamie Benn put on a master class in being a terrible captain with his 2-game suspension when he tried to hurt Mark Stone. So, that same thing might happen again. So we'll see. All right, Chris.
Told me about that.
He got suspended last year for 2 games. He got suspended in game number 3. First, he knocked down Mark Stone, then he cross-checked him in the head on the ground. He got a 2-game suspension. Here's the funnier thing, Chris. Here's the funnier thing. That series wound up being 4-2 Vegas Golden Knights. The only 2 games the Dallas Stars won were the games where Jamie Benn missed. So, pretty funny. All right. You got anything else you want to talk about today, Chris, or are we done?
No.
Cool. Perfect. All right. That was the spicy edition. Maybe Chris got the jalapenos in his water instead of me putting the jalapeno in my coffee like it's been lately, or maybe he got the spice in there. I don't know. But that was the Chris and Chris edition of Locked On Vegas Golden Knights. You can catch that every single Saturday morning. That is a YouTube exclusive. Monday through Friday, myself and Tony Cordasco. You can catch that version of Locked On Golden Knights anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Quick shout out and thank you to the everydayers who check out the show Monday through Friday and our super everydayers who check us out instead of watching Saturday morning cartoons. Although the Coyote and the Roadrunner would be a fun cartoon to watch right now. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to take a shot. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and fun week ahead. This is when hockey season gets good, folks. Looking forward to another great week of shows coming up. Golden Knights hockey, and the playoffs are coming. Or is it the fog is coming? Playoffs are coming. Never mind. Okay. We're done. Take care.